up, guys, and what is up, world? This is KOS Avenger coming at you guys again with another awesome YouTube video on a Friday. And, yeah. And you might be wondering, how am I filming without my hands? Well, I got some special equipment here for my birthday, and in fact, it's able to hold my phone in place. If I have to catch my phone suddenly, well, then I may have to do that. And if it ends up falling, then that would be bad. But anyway, welcome to my room. I know it's not much to look at, but there it is. You know, and this isn't actually a part of the Aaron Zajac show. This is actually just um, not a part of the main series that we're focusing on with the Bible. We'll be focusing on that next week. But what we're going to be focusing on today is a book review. Yes. Yes, this is my first book review. First of many. And today I have a special treat for y'all. We're going to be going over and reviewing Star Wars Catalyst, a Rogue One novel by New York Times bestselling author James Luceno, right? And, if you want to see the back, here's the back. It says, "The end of the Clone Wars is in sight, but beyond hope's horizons, the darkest of stars is rising." Right, sorry, can't read upside down. It's pretty hard to do, or reverse. But anyway, so we're going to be talking about this amazing book today. And as you guys know, I'm an avid Star Wars fan. I love Star Wars. I've loved it since I was 5 years old. And, it's, yeah, time to come back with another video. So, let's get started. So, obviously, this is a Star Wars book, right? Sorry, that's my phone in the background, home phone, but anyway, I guess it's gone now. Anyway, so as we can see by the cover, this is definitely a, Star Wars book. Again, it's called Star Wars Catalyst, a Rogue One novel by James Luceno. And so now that I've shown you enough of that, here's the inside. It gives you pretty much a little description like most books have. This is a paperback version. It is, hang on a moment. It is, how much money? Let's find out how much money. Oh, there it is. Okay, so it's up at the top here. My bad. So this is about 29 bucks in the United States, right here. And if you're in Canada, well, it sucks for you because you have to pay more money in, Canada, because apparently they hate books over there or something. I don't know. It's 37 bucks if you're in Canada. Right. So, what is this book about? This fancy book here. Well, I haven't actually done a book review before, but we're gonna be, this is the first time for everything, right? So, here we go. So, what is this book about? Well, judging by the title, it is about, essentially, for those of you that know the Star Wars movies and know that, in 2016 they released Star Wars, they released Rogue One, a Star Wars story. God, I keep wanting to say Star Wars at the title because that's how the main movies are, but not Rogue One or Solo. Those are the only movies that have a Star Wars story after them. I think that's because they're part of the anthology series. But anyway, so right, now that I've bored you with about 5 minutes of me talking, so what is this book about? Well, this book basically, it's kind of, you can infer by the name, catalyst, Star Wars catalyst, a Rogue One novel, that this has to do something with Rogue One, a Star Wars story. And you'd be right. So good job. You get a thumbs up from me. God, I can't pronounce English today. Anyway, um, so this book here, I'll stop showing it to you because I've shown it to you about 5 times, but this book here actually goes over the story. Um, it goes before the events of the Rogue One, a Star Wars story movie, and you know, so I guess we can go over some pros and some cons, even though there isn't really that many cons, to be honest. I'm very biased, so this is a very biased review, although there are a few cons. So, this is a 330-page book. I know most people can read these kinds of books in like a day or two if they really try. And if they're Star Wars fans, like, they will read this in a couple of hours. Me, however, it took me a couple of weeks. That is because I am that slow. It has nothing to do with the book or its content. So this story is basically about like as I said, it details the events before, like right before, I would say, leading up to Rogue One, a Star Wars story, and definitely some pros I would recommend about this book here. Um, it's about Star Wars, so if you love Star Wars, this is a good book for you. And if you love Rogue One, a Star Wars story like I do, this book is for you. You want this book. Um, Now, the book is relatively easy to understand, but however, there is a con. If you are a person that does not understand Star Wars, you've never seen Star Wars before, and you just picked the first book in the bookstore, or, you know, that's even if people use bookstores. Most people use audiobooks now. You might have a little bit of trouble understanding this book. And it's not, it has nothing to do with, like, you just not understanding it, but I would recommend, if you have never seen Star Wars at all and you want to get into the lore, you definitely want to watch episodes 1 through 3. Those are the prequels, I know, and if you ask any Star Wars fan, they'll be like, oh, the prequels, they're so bad. Well, that depends on who you ask. I like the prequels, they're good, I like them, um, you know. And yeah, so for those of you that have seen Star Wars and have at least watched Rogue One, or even, you don't even need to do that. As long as you've watched the 6 movies, and maybe if you haven't seen Rogue One, this book is for you. Now, as you can see, the cover art is amazing. You can see this is a photo of the Death Star, and I love how they added that into the cover art, because it makes it look like every time you stare at the cover that the Death Star is about to fire, like, on your face, and you're about to be like, oh my gosh. But if you notice on the actual art, you can see how big the Death Star is in comparison to a Star Destroyer, for those of you that know what I'm talking about. Now, for those of you that have no idea what I am talking about, I would recommend, as I said before, I know I'm repeating myself, I would definitely recommend go see episodes 1 through 3 before reading this book, and then go watch Rogue One. Then you can watch 4, 5, and 6. And if you haven't seen Solo, you should go see Solo. And if you want to, you could watch 7 and 8 as well. I've seen them all. You know, and yeah. So anyway, this, does go over a lot of the events kind of leading up to the events of Rogue One. I love the story. I think it's very well detailed. You know, the only kind of negative thing that I could say is, like I said, if maybe you're a slow reader, this book might take you some time, like me, but that's okay because if you read slowly, you'll enjoy the book more. That's okay. Um, Everyone reads at their own pace, but if you love Star Wars and if you love Rogue One and if you want to know the events behind it, or you want to get into Star Wars and you haven't seen Rogue One and you've seen at least the prequels, then you can read this. This, when you read the book, I actually read the book and watched Rogue One because we have Rogue One on DVD and Blu-ray. Um, After reading this book, I felt like the book, like the events after it, were coming to life, and you know, it's amazing to me. Something else I really like, if you look in the back of the book, um, it actually tells you about the author. That's James Luceno right there. But it also, let me find it here, in the acknowledgments. Um, no, that's about the type. If you look in the About the Author section, oh, I'm sorry, not that one. The acknowledgments section here. If you actually look at the acknowledgments section right here, the author actually consulted a polymath to actually tell him how crystals, lasers, diffraction, physics, superfluid, electromagnetic laser technology works. I'm pretty sure a physicist couldn't understand what I just said. Anyway, I find that interesting. He actually consulted like real mathematicians to kind of make something that's not realistic at all, make it as if just to do the math, to make it look realistic. I find that, I admire that. I think that's a great thing. And, I know some of you are wondering, like, why would they do that? Why would he do that? I mean, I admire that because I think, Star Wars is fiction. As much as everyone would love a Death Star, trust me, we would all love to see this. Maybe not. If like Russia had one of these, we would all be afraid right now. But anyway, you know, if the fact that Star Wars is fiction and the fact that the author actually took the time to consult actual scientists and mathematicians to make it look as if the numbers and the math in this book are realistic, that's amazing. I admire that. I think that just goes to show you the level of credit and the amount of hard work that James Luceno put into this book. Um, I don't want to make this too long. I know some of you are already bored, but so let me just give you a short summary of what I basically said. So just to wrap this up, so uh, Star Wars Catalyst, a Rogue One novel, James Luceno, New York New York Times best-selling author. It's about the events that go on before Rogue One, a Star Wars story. It's a great book if you love Star Wars and if you're an ultimate Star Wars fan. If you're a science fiction fan, this book is for you. If you've never seen Star Wars before, you may have a little trouble because you won't recognize some of the characters and some of the things that some other experienced kind of, Star Wars people would know, but that's okay. I would recommend if you want to get into this book and if you want to get into Star Wars, particularly with the events associated with this book, that you watch, again, the prequels, watch Star Wars episodes 1 through 3, and then read this book, and then watch Rogue One. it actually helped make a lot of sense out of Rogue One, especially since Rogue One was a little bit kind of interesting in how the story was, and it's not like other Star Wars movies. It's about a group of people that are, you know, for those of you that aren't into Star Wars, those of you know most of the events, in Star Wars revolve around this battle between good and evil, the battle between the Jedi and the Sith, the light and the dark, that kind of thing. The thing that I love about this book is that this book has nothing to do with that, and it actually fills in the plot hole of where does the Death Star, this big giant humongous thing, come from? Where did it come from? How was it built? How did they get the resources to do that? Who was in charge of it? And that kind of thing. And the movie itself actually details a lot of the characters in this book because um, it's mostly about a story about, how did the rebels get the plans for this humongous thing and how did that happen. So that's sort of what the movie does. That pretty much wraps it up. Again, you know, if you love Star Wars, if you love Star Wars books, you want to get into the lore, you've seen Rogue One, or maybe you haven't seen it, read this book. It'll help you out before watching Rogue One. And like I said, watch episodes 1 through 3, and then read this book, and then watch Rogue One if you want to see how this ties into that. Now, if you just don't like Star Wars at all, if you're like I don't know why Trekkies, and I'm not saying all Trekkies because I like Star Trek too. Like Star Trek's good too. Um, I think it's great. I'm more into Star Wars though than Star Trek. If you're a Trekkie, like a die-hard Trekkie, you may not like this because this is a totally different genre, different science fiction group, and for some reason, Trekkies really seem to dislike Star Wars. Not every Trekkie, I can't speak for them. I like them both. There are some people that like them both, um, but others just don't. So, anyway, I know this has gone on way too long. I want to thank you guys for coming and actually watching this. You know, please leave a comment. Please subscribe. Please, give me feedback. How do you like this new setup? Is it good? Is it not good? Do you prefer the old setup? Anyway, that is it, guys. Check this book out. It's called Star Wars Catalyst, a Rogue One novel by James Luceno. Great book and great author. So this is KOS Avenger, otherwise known as Rebel 80, and I'll be seeing you on the flip side. And this is KOS Avenger, signing off.